I am Thalia, your educational avatar. Welcome to this knowledge clip in which I explore the concept of organizational culture. I will clarify what we mean by an organization's culture, how it develops, and how you as a school leader can help shape it. According to organizational theorist Edgar Schein, organizational culture consists of the set of basic assumptions a group has developed over time while dealing with external challenges and internal collaboration. These assumptions have proven effective in practice and therefore come to be seen as the right way to perceive, understand, and address key issues. Schein distinguishes three interacting levels of culture: underlying assumptions, the organization's value system, and visible artifacts and creations. Artifacts are the audible, visible, or tangible expressions of culture. Think, for example, of the organizational environment, like the architecture, technology, branding, office layout, and dress codes, but also observable behavioral patterns and public documents, such as statutes, the website, onboarding materials, and narratives. The image shown represents these three levels. It is important to recognize that they influence one another, both bottom-up and top-down. Underlying assumptions shape values, which in turn influence visible behavior and artifacts. But the reverse is also true. The meaning people assign to visible events and behaviors can reshape underlying values and ultimately even shift the basic assumptions themselves. This dynamic becomes especially relevant when considering how a school leader can influence organizational culture. Let me briefly summarize. The foundation of organizational culture lies in the group's basic assumptions, unconscious, taken-for-granted beliefs that are not easily articulated. Because they operate implicitly, these assumptions make established cultures difficult to change. Above this layer lies the organization's value system. Members can become consciously aware of these values through reflection and dialogue. The top layer consists of visible artifacts and creations. Schein notes that culture can be analyzed at each of these levels, starting with the visible artifacts. Analyzing this level is relatively easy in terms of collecting data, but difficult in terms of interpretation. We may be able to describe how a group arranges its environment or how people behave, but the underlying logic, why they behave as they do, often remains unclear. Now that we understand what organizational culture is and how it is structured, let's explore how such a culture emerges. Core values, both personal and organizational, play a major role in cultural formation. Organizational core values are the fundamental principles that guide behavior, decision-making, and collaboration. They express what the organization truly stands for and act as a compass for action, regardless of changing circumstances. But where do these core values come from? They emerge through a cyclical process in which events are perceived and given meaning. The resulting basic assumptions then shape the organization's core values. It is important to realize that perception itself is a selective process. More on that later. The cyclical process of perception and sense-making is shown in the adjacent diagram. How does this cycle work? It begins with an event, planned or unplanned, positive or negative. On the individual level, a team member selectively perceives this event and tries to interpret and make sense of it. These interpretations influence the person's actions, which in turn generate new events. Interpretations may also lead to new narratives, for example, a person's inner speech or inner dialogue. These narratives can unconsciously influence someone's basic assumptions, which then affect their value system, language use, and norms. This, in turn, shapes future interpretations and actions. The result is an ongoing lemniscate, or continuous loop. This sense-making process occurs individually for each team member, but also collectively. Shared meanings and shared stories develop over time. Collective sense-making influences individual sense-making, and vice versa. These sense-making processes offer school leaders a key leverage point for cultural change. You can influence sense-making both individually and collectively, whether in formal settings such as meetings or informally at the coffee machine. It is important to remember that this cycle is always in motion, whether or not you consciously work on cultural development. As a school leader, you must remain alert to events that can be used to reinforce or shift the organization's desired culture. In collective sense-making, the central question is the weight or value assigned to insights. What do we consider important? School leaders have a key role in ensuring that these processes are of high quality. Skillful facilitation of group dynamics is essential. Collective sense-making is not only relevant for culture formation, it is also crucial for developing a shared ambition, for the practice of triple-loop learning, and for co-creation, an approach widely used by learning organizations. If you want to strengthen your organization's culture, the most effective approach is to design activities in a way that reflects the desired culture, and to continually assign shared meaning to what is learned about the process. The specific content of the activity is in this stage often less important than the process itself. Teams must first operate within a professional culture, one in which members learn with and from one another before they can successfully complete substantive improvement initiatives. Often, once the culture has reached the desired level, the improvement topic itself must be revisited. A professional culture is the foundation of all school development, and investing in such a culture is therefore a high priority. The quality of decision-making also plays a major role. Professional decision-making strengthens professional culture. Conversely, more political decision-making, where the loudest voices dominate, works against it. An example of professional decision-making is the meritocratic approach described by Martin Hettebridge. When elements of deep democracy are integrated, the organization's cultural development receives an additional positive boost. Finally, let's explore selective perception, a phenomenon that strongly affects the quality of sense-making. Our minds filter incoming information, allowing through only what seems relevant. This filter operates largely unconsciously. Moreover, information that aligns with existing beliefs is more likely to be accepted than information that contradicts them. The diagram shown illustrates this process. Adaptation is the process by which mental schemas, organized structures of knowledge, are adjusted based on new experiences. This occurs through assimilation and accommodation. Assimilation means understanding new experiences through the lens of existing schemas. And accommodation means adjusting existing schemas based on new information. For example, someone encounters a dog of a breed he has never seen before. Because he already has schemas about dogs in his brain, he recognizes the animal as a dog, an example of assimilation. His understanding of dog then expands to include the new breed, an example of accommodation. Balancing existing knowledge with new information through assimilation and accommodation is called equilibration. In sense-making, it is important to recognize that the more rigid a person's thinking patterns are, the more difficult it becomes for them to evaluate new information objectively. For this knowledge clip, I consulted the sources shown here. This concludes my overview of how to strengthen organizational culture. I hope it has inspired you and helps you foster an even more professional culture in your own school. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next knowledge clip.